Our series of debates continues with the candidates for Fitchburg's Ward 4 City Council with incumbent Andy Van Hazinga and his challenger, Lewis Chamberlain. Thank you both for joining us. We're going to get right into the important issue, which is Fitchburg's economic condition. Fitchburg for the last several years has been relying heavily on free cash to balance the budget, but the free cash is running out. An independent auditing firm, an analysis by Clifton Larson Allen projects that we will have a budgetary deficit of nearly $9 million by the year 2030 unless action is taken, and made several recommendations to address this. Now, we'll get to different recommendations and different questions, but for this question, I'd like to focus on one of their recommendations, which is to implement a trash fee on residents. Will you vote in favor or against CLA's recommendation to impose a trash fee? If voting against, where specifically would you propose cuts from the budget to offset the revenues that would have been generated by such a fee? Mr. Chamberlain.
I wouldn't support a trash fee. I think the residents have spent 30 years paying of their property taxes continually increasing. We just created a meals tax for the residents. We created the Great Wolf Lodge taxes just increased also. I think that we can't keep putting it on the resident. We're just kicking the can down Main Street. We're not balancing our budget appropriately. I think that we have to look at our budget and we have to look at departments that were over budgeting. The last budget session, there were a lot of cuts proposed that weren't chosen. One of them was the parking clerk overtime rate. Marcus Di Natale proposed a $1,000 cut, and it was shot down by the council, saying that they needed it for the parking garage clerk to paint the lines. Well, that young kid that does that, I call him a young kid, sorry, I'm almost 50, but 25 years old, he didn't paint the lines. It was painted during regular work hours. So there was some miscommunication there on why we needed that money. So I think if we go through the budget line by line, there are some feasible cuts. One cut that I can come off the top of my head is we spend $50,000 a year to put fluoride in the water, to poison our kids, to create problems for our kids. Some fluoride could be linked to autism, to learning disabilities, and we're paying $50,000 a year to put it in our water when most of our residents don't want it there. And in Massachusetts, if you're a low income, Mass Health gives you health insurance. You qualify for kids to have dental insurance, so you don't need the fluoride in the water. So that's one cut that we could do, is cut the $50,000 we spend there.
Okay, good. Councilor Van Hazinga.
Thank you, Kevin. So I think it's important to really understand what a serious situation we're in with the city's finances. As you said, the auditors said we're going to have a $9 million hole. And a lot of this relates to trash in the future. Right now, we have a landfill that's only going to last for so much longer. It's been extended. The life has been extended, but it's scheduled to close in 2032. And right now, we collect about $2.2 million in tipping fees, which helps offset largely our trash collection fees, which are about $2.5 million. So if we lose those tipping fees and have to pay more for our trash fees, that's a really big swing in our expenses and a really big hole that we have to climb out of. And it's irresponsible not to consider any avenue we have to raise additional revenue. And there's no one source that can cover all of the expenses that we have and all the deficit we have, but we have to look at everything. I think whether or not I would support the trash fee depends on how it's structured. How much is it? Who does it apply to? Right now we supply trash bins to buildings with up to 5 units. Does everybody get one and you have to pay for more? Is it everybody? How much is it a month? I think those are all things to look at, and it's something I will consider. I can't say I would support it when I don't have a specific proposal, but I will absolutely consider it because we need to consider everything. It's irresponsible to dismiss things out of hand without looking at what they can do to help improve the city's financial situation.
I'm going to open this up for up to a 5-minute discussion. If either of you have anything else to say on this?
The only other thing I want to say is, I know that we're in a financial situation amongst the city, but we continue to not propose cuts. We continue to not cut common sense cuts. We're funding positions in City Hall that aren't filled right now. Why? If we're running and operating without those positions filled, then there's no reason to fill them. We have we're facing forward, and we got up to a $9 million shortfall in the budget. We're doing something wrong. I remember the hard days. 2008, back then when there were times we laid off police officers, we laid off firefighters, we laid off the dispatchers out of the police department. We're facing that way again if we don't start looking at the budget a little bit more seriously. An example of wasteful spending, we spent $550,000 to buy an empty the empty Dunkin' Donuts on John Fitch Highway for something the state said we might do this in 10 years. Can we trust the state? No. The state told us we're only going to pay to ride on a Mass Pike for 20 years. 50 years later, we're still paying.
I'm not sure you fully understand the financial situation, because you're proposing a $50,000 cut. You're talking about a $1,000 cut to overtime for a $9 million deficit.
Well,
cuts alone cannot take care of anything. We have to look at everything. We have to increase revenue. We do have to be judicial in our expenses. I gave you a minute to speak. Could I speak for a minute?
Sure.
All right, thank you. But we need to do more than $50,000 worth of cuts or $1,000 cuts here, because that's not going to make up for it. We need to do those cuts. We need to control the rise of expenses, and we also need to increase our revenues. And because we're losing $2.2 million in tipping fees that are just going to be poof, they're gone once the dump closes. And it's going to cost us more to truck our trash out of state. So how are we going to make that up if we're not going to look at additional revenue?
Well, when you look at a budget, even in your personal budget, pennies add up to dollars. So saying that $50,000 isn't going to do, yeah, it's going to. We spent $550,000 to buy an empty building that we're going to have to pay to tear down. So there's another $175,000 that we're going to have to spend to tear it down. Then we have to insure it. So this is what I'm talking about, the wasteful spending. We continue to waste spending. We created taxes. For 30 years, we've increased the taxes, but we're not cutting the spending. You can't have it both ways. How do you got to generate revenue, but you got to stop wasting the money.
So there is inflation. Health insurance costs us more, salaries go up, just the general of buying things goes up, the cost of asphalt goes up. Expenses always go up, and you have to increase revenue to match it. If you don't increase revenue, you're just going to dig a hole no matter what you do. But we're talking about $9 million. The entire budget for the police department is a little over $9 million. Fire department, which one of those are we going to cut to close this hole? We don't want to do that. We do need to look at cuts, but cuts alone will not take care of the problem. We have to look at everything. We have to look at every opportunity we have to improve the city's financial situation.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you do the raising the fees, you're affecting the people that live here's way of life. Have you looked at the rents? $1,600 live on Main Street in Fitchburg. $1,600. Look at the homeless population. I work 8P to 4A. I come home in the morning, I see somebody in a storefront rolled up in a rug. We're making it unaffordable here.
Yes,
we don't have jobs that are gonna bring the income for people. People are struggling. I've been door knocking. You talk to people, they're struggling. They're trying to choose between, my kid can't participate in the holiday fair at school because I don't have $20 extra to send them with. That's the kind of stuff I'm hearing. The residents are hurting because we just keep spending and taxing. Another friend of mine lives down by Coolidge.
So which services do you cut? So if are you eliminate trash pickup? Or are we just going to get rid of that altogether?
Well, no,
are we going to cut firefighters? Are we going to cut policemen?
Well,
are we going to cut DPW crews? In order to make a substantial change to make up this deficit, you have to cut serious things. This isn't nickel and diming.
That's true.
And you haven't proposed any serious cuts that could make up that source of revenue.
Well, let me $500,000, $50,000. We pay $50,000 for the Johnny Appleseed rest stop that does nothing for the city of Fitchburg. We spent over $1 million on snow and ice this winter. Over $1 million
So should we stop plowing the roads?
For less than 15 inches of snow. Our DPW spent 7 hours in the empty lot where the Johnsonia building was, cleaning up the snow they took off the Putnam garage. That's city property. Why did
It's not city property.
It is too. It's owned by the Redevelopment Authority.
That's not the city.
Who owns the Redevelopment Authority?
The Redevelopment Authority is an independent organization.
It's owned and run by Fitchburg.
No,
though.
it's not.
It's under the branch of Fitchburg.
No, it's not. It's an independent,
Okay.
quasi-governmental organization.
Well, 25 feet from the garage
I'm
into the
a former
Johnsonia.
director of the Redevelopment Authority.
That's okay. But 25 feet from the garage to the Johnsonia is city property, and they were cleaning it up
We
there.
need to move on to the next question. One of the other recommendations from CLA is a Proposition 2.5 override, but in order to get a Proposition 2.5 override, it has to be voted on by the voters. And in order to be voted on by the voters, the City Council has to vote to put it on the ballot. If you're elected to the City Council, will you vote to put a Proposition 2.5 override ballot question before the voters? Councilor Van Hazinga.
Yes, I will, because the voters have a right to choose whether or not they want to pay it. The city council doesn't get to decide whether or not a Proposition 2.5 override goes. The city council only decides whether or not the voters have a chance to weigh in, to cast their vote to decide. And we're in a situation where we need to consider every option. And the voters have a right to consider that option too. We don't have to decide it for them. That's a simple answer.
Mr. Chamberlain,
I won't support it.
you won't support putting it to the voters?
No. I won't support putting it to the voters, and I won't support it if it just came in front of me as a councilor.
Okay.
We're taxing our people to death, and you can't, like I said, you can't continue to tax. You can't tax your way out of debt unless you cut the spending. And we're not doing that. We've proposed already. Great Wolf Lodge, room tax has increased. We created a meals tax for the city of Fitchburg, and we're still facing a $9 million deficit. So that tells us that we're doing something wrong.
Okay, I'm going to open this up for discussion. Do either of you have anything to add on this one?
No.
No? You're good? Okay. Another recommendation from CLA is for a stormwater maintenance tax and the creation of an enterprise fund. Will you vote in favor of a stormwater maintenance tax and the creation of an enterprise fund? If voting no, where specifically would you recommend cuts from the budget to offset the revenues generated by such a tax? Mr. Chamberlain.
I would say no for that also, because people already pay an outrageous water and sewer bill. And again, it's another tax that we're gonna tax people for more, and we're never gonna cut down on the spending. So we're chasing a can down the street that we're never gonna pick up and throw in the trash. So again, you have to go through the budget. You have to lead. You can't just go with the status quo. You have to vote no. You have to make cuts throughout the budget. That means if you have to go into overtime accounts and you have to cut that money until we need it, then that's what we have to do. We have to cut overtime. We need police cars, yes. We've bought about 4 or 5 of them in the last couple of years. Those police cars that are brand new, they're bigger than the Explorers, so they're not as fuel as efficient as the Explorers are. They don't handle like an Explorer does. We buy a brand new police car, we run it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's why our police cars don't last. You buy 3 police cars a year and run them one for first shift, one for second shift, one for third shift, you'll get 5 years out of that car.
Councilor Van Hazinga.
Thank you. So a little history, the city's under a court order to separate our stormwater and our sewer systems right now, and it's costing the city hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is work that's taking us decades. This is something we don't have a choice to do, we have to do it. And right now, the cost of this project is being borne entirely by ratepayers, by you and I when we pay our water and sewer bill. A lot of that sewer bill goes to cover the cost of this sewer separation. But that method of paying for it only accounts for the people the ratepayers who use water. It doesn't account for the people who create stormwater runoff that has to be processed through these systems. So, as I've said before, I'm willing to consider any avenue. And if this is an avenue to force people or properties that create large amounts of stormwater runoff, like shopping centers with large parking lots, large industrial buildings with flat roofs, places like that create a lot of the runoff that has to be processed, that's absolutely something that should be looked at. Now we have to look at the specifics. What type of properties does this apply to? Is it only large properties? Is it homes as well? That's something we have to look at, and that's something that we have to take under consideration whether or not we want to adopt something like this. But we do absolutely have to give some relief to ratepayers, because right now we're paying the entire bill and we're not responsible for the entire problem. The large properties that create this runoff that's being processed through the stormwater, they need to pay as well. So I would absolutely support looking into how we can structure this to be most effective to help give some relief to ratepayers.
Either of you have anything else on this subject?
My only comment is we're gonna give relief to the ratepayer, but then we're gonna create another tax. You continue, Councilor, to support tax.
You have to look at who's paying these taxes. The hotel room tax is being paid not by Fitchburg residents. It's being paid by people who are coming to Fitchburg to stay at Great Wolf Lodge. The largest payers of the dining fee is the restaurant at Great Wolf Lodge. That is the largest restaurant we have that does the most business. That's where most of the biggest payer of the dining fee comes from. If we look at the stormwater fee, if this is going to be structured to really incentivize proper stormwater management to make the properties that are creating the stormwater runoff help pay for the separation, I think that's a good thing. This isn't a fee that's going to be paid by homeowners. This is going to be a fee that's going to be paid by large property owners. It's going to be paid by the owners of shopping centers, industrial buildings, large parking lots, places like that that are creating this runoff. That's what's causing it, and they should help pay for the separation.
Well, don't most of these bigger properties already pay a water and sewer bill?
If they use water.
Well, most of a commercial property, I don't know.
A parking lot doesn't use water.
Well, that's true, but they pay taxes, and that should be included in their tax bill that's gone up for 30 years.
Yes, but they're creating the stormwater that needs to be processed through these systems, so they should help pay for this system to manage it.
I disagree.
So you and I and people who own homes should pay for their water runoff instead?
Well, the thing is that
Because somebody has to pay for this.
Well, everybody is already paying for it. Everybody is already paying for it. What are we going to do in 2 years, 3 years, when all these new police and fire officers, firefighters that we've hired, what are we going to do when we have to lay them off because we can't pay them because we keep taxing and spending? What are we going to do? What are we going to tell them? Thanks, we paid for you to go to the academy. We got you hired. You started your career here. You're 2 years in, but sorry, we have to lay you off because we can't pay you.
If we don't generate additional revenue, we will absolutely have to decimate our public services.
Again, if we don't stop.
Yes, if we don't increase our revenue and control costs. We need to do both.
We increase every year, but we continue to give out raises, and we continue to fund positions that aren't filled in City Hall. They're not filled. So we're still tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and spend.
If they're not filled, we don't spend that money and it comes back as free cash.
And we're using it to balance the budget 4 years in a row. That's not good practice management. That outside
and that's
audit
why we need to
told us that
increase
we're
revenue
facing the wrong
sources.
way. We have to cut our spending.
Yeah, we absolutely do, but we need to increase revenue sources as well. We can't do it by cutting alone.
I think both of you have made the same point several times, so let's move on. As Fitchburg focuses on new construction and repurposing of existing buildings, should development efforts be directed primarily toward expanding affordable housing options to support working families and maintain community accessibility, or toward market rate and higher end housing that may attract residents with greater financial resources capable of stimulating business investment and broadening the local tax base? And while the easy answer is to say we need both, the question is, which one of those two should take the higher priority as we shape the future of the city? Councilor Van Hazinga.
So, as you said, we need housing for everybody. And I'm just real touched that we need affordable housing, we need market rate housing, we need it all. Historically, it has been very hard to develop new housing in this market because the cost of developing housing exceeds the value of the housing once it's produced. And that's why we had a period of such limited housing development. And that's starting to change as rents climb. One of the side effects is that we can create more housing, which increases the inventory, which then lowers the prices. So there have been tools like low-income housing tax credits, historic tax credits, other things like that to provide for affordable housing. And there are state programs that allow for that and support that. We've seen many projects, such as most recently the Fitchburg Arts Community and the former B.F. Brown open up, that uses those programs to provide a mixed income housing, including affordable housing for working individuals, working families, for low-income individuals, and everyone in between. The harder part is market rate housing. So that's where I think the city's efforts should be, is to support this development, because we need both. We are getting housing development on the affordable side. We need to strengthen our housing development of the market rate side, because we need housing for everybody. We need all incomes in this city. And we can't have areas with just market rate housing. We need affordable housing everywhere. We can't have areas with just affordable housing. We need to spread it throughout the city. We need to be smart when we do it. But right now, the need is market rate housing.
Mr. Chamberlain.
I support the, I agree with the councilor on this one. It is really hard because market rate is outrageous right now. I work a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs, and my rent just went up another $100. And I rent from New View, so I understand how their whole policy works. But we need affordable housing, but we do need market housing too. But the market rent is out of control. There's no reason for the rent to be that high. But again, it's the domino effect when you look at when a city continues to go up on the water, go up on the sewer. You got Unitil, the taxes increase. The landlord has no other option but to raise the rent so he can make a profit. You don't buy a property to rent out to not make a profit. So it's kind of a catch-22. We need both, but right now we need to concentrate a lot on affordable housing because our homeless population in this area has tripled in 5 years. We have one shelter in the area that's full with three pages of names of waiting lists to get into that shelter. Hundreds of people are living on the streets, both in Fitchburg and Leominster, Gardner, Air, in all of our surrounding areas. You pull into a place at night, I work security on the overnight, you pull into a parking garage, somebody's sleeping in their car, or you go to Kmart in the middle of the night, just 15, 20 cars of people living in their vehicles. So we need affordable housing.
Okay, so I'm going to open this up for open discussion. Affordable housing versus market rate, housing affordability, and expanding tax base. Where do you find it?
So the simplest answer to increasing housing costs is to increase the supply of housing. It's a simple economics. I learned this back in college. It's supply and demand. If there is more demand for housing than there is supply, the price goes up through the roof. If we increase supply to meet demand, things will equal out. And that's the best way we can go to make housing more affordable, more available, and have better housing available in our city.
I agree with that, but then I don't. Because if you go on any website right now, we have well over 200 empty units throughout the city of Fitchburg. You name the development, 245 River has empty units, Yon Works has empty units, Willow Loft has empty units, Moran Square Apartments has empty units, Meadowbrook's got empty units. So it's not a supply problem. We have a lot of empty units throughout our property. 470 Main has empty units. BF Brown has empty units. It's not a supply problem. We have a lot of housing. It's people can't afford the rent.
So I work in multifamily housing. I'm an appraiser. I specialize in the appraisal of multifamily properties. And I can tell you that there will always be empty units in the building. A building will never be completely full because units always turn over. There's always churn. And this is especially true for market rate properties that will always have a certain percentage of their units come available. People leave, new tenants come in. And there is a gap while apartments are marketed, usually before the lease is up. Sometimes there's a period where it takes time to go through and check the credit, check the applications, go through the lists, get tenants, have them move in. So there are always vacant units in buildings. That does not mean there's not demand for those units.
Anything else
Nope.
on this subject? I agree with you. In that case, we will move on to closing statements, and we will begin up to 3-minute closing statement. Mr. Chamberlain.
Okay, thank you. Ward 4 residents, my name is Louis Chamberlain. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to put me onto the ballot. I want to thank the residents again of 16 Pritchard Street, Elm Street, High Street, some Mount Vernon residents, Apple Tree Hill, for signing my nomination papers and putting me on the ballot. I also want to thank Jackie, Mary, Crystal, and Rick for your support and guidance and just everything you've done for me so far along the campaign. But residents, I want to let you know that I'll be a hands-on counselor. I'll vote no when no has to be said. I will be a present counselor. You will see me at events. You will see me in your neighborhood just walking through, driving through. If you call me with a concern, I'll come to your house and sit at your table like I've done throughout my door knocking. The residents of Ward 4, when someone knocks on your door, they'll be able to say, I know my counselor's Louis Chamberlain. Over and over again through this election cycle, I've knocked on doors and numerous people couldn't tell me who their Ward 4 counselor was. So I'm running because I want to be your Ward 4 counselor. I see what you see. I live right in the heart of Fitchburg, right downtown. I see what you see. The continuous fighting to get to basic needs that make your everyday life good. I will be your candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain.
Thank you.
Councilor Van Hazinga.
First off, I want to thank FATV and FLAP for hosting the debate because it's so important that we have a forum where we can meet the candidates and understand what their position on issues are and how they'll handle things. And because you can't make a good decision in the voting booth if you don't know who you're voting for and who the options are. So this is invaluable and I really appreciate it. But I think Fitchburg is heading in the right direction. We're investing in our city. We're replacing water mains. We're separating the water and sewer. We're starting to pave roads. We're making great progress. We just completed an elementary school. We're building a new library. We're seeing private investment in the city. We're seeing hammers swinging in empty buildings on Main Street. We're seeing new apartments and housing. We're seeing homes for new businesses going in. The Fitchburg Arts Community recently opened to provide income for mixed income families. So we're making progress, but the road ahead is not easy, and the financial deck is stacked against Fitchburg and a lot of other municipalities in Massachusetts. And Fitchburg needs strong leadership on their city council. They need experienced leadership. We need to control rising costs, we need to encourage new growth in the city, and we need to find new sources of revenue. This is how we can tackle our budget problem and make the city successful. I've been a strong leader for the city since I was elected 6 years ago, and I've served as the council vice president for the past 3 years. I put in the extra work, and I serve on a number of committees outside the council, such as I'm the liaison to the Council on Aging, I'm serving on the Library Building Committee. When there is a need for strong leadership, I'm there to help. Responding to resident concerns is one of my primary duties, and I take it very seriously. I responded quickly and as thoroughly as possible whenever I'm contacted by a resident. I have a strong record of public service before I was on the City Council. I was on the Planning Board for a decade. I'm the former board president of Newview Communities. I was a director of the Redevelopment Authority. I was a commissioner of the Housing Authority, and I volunteer my time a lot. I've sponsored hockey teams, basketball teams, baseball teams. I coach a hockey team. I have to run from the debate tonight to meet up with my team for a game. I'm active in the community. I see people around, I talk to people, I understand what the challenges are and what needs to be done. I'm a homeowner and a small business owner. Me and my wife are raising 3 kids in the city, and all of them go to Fitchburg Public Schools. On election day, I'm asking for your help to keep Fitchburg moving in the right direction. I want you to vote for hard work and accountability, not empty promises. That nobody can say they can work magic to make money appear out of thin air, but it takes a lot of hard work to make good decisions and make sure the city is on sound financial footing to be successful in the future. So on election day, I ask that you vote for Andrew Van Hazinga for Ward 4 City Council.
Thank you, Councilor. And that concludes this debate. If you missed part of the debate or know someone who wants to watch the debate or you just want to watch it again because it was so great, it can be seen 24/7 on demand on the FATV website, on the FATV app. It is going to be replayed repeatedly on FATV over the local access channel until Election Day, and also available on the social media apps. We will be doing debates for every contested race in the city of Fitchburg and Leominster leading up to the November 4th election, so make sure you go out and vote. Thank you both for participating in this debate, participating in democracy, and appearing before the voters to answer questions. That concludes this debate. Bye-bye.